guys, Kristen and Beck here, and in today's episode we are talking about ulcers in horses, and specifically some of the causes of ulcers. Now, there is a plethora of potential causes of ulcers, things that can make them worse, so we're not going to talk about every single one, but just a handful of some of the more common reasons behind ulcers in horses.
Because I'm sure all of you guys, have seen throughout the years horses getting diagnosed with ulcers, and the question has probably come up on what causes them. Mm-hmm. And it's a big topic.
Yeah. So one particular cause can be genetics, or a horse breeds can be more prone to ulcers. You're more nervous breeds, you're more anxious or energetic, mm-hmm. because they're constantly needing to move. If your horse is a type that paces, right, in their stalls or in the field, it just moves around a lot, because mm-hmm. that goes into one of the other causes is like movement, exercise, working, even hauling somewhere on an empty stomach.
They've also done research that says that for some reason, some horses, and I imagine this is genetic, are prone to having a stomach acid that is more acidic just naturally. Yeah. And one of my vets said that some of the worst ulcers she ever saw was in a brood mare on a pasture in Kentucky. And so for her, that would mean that this was a genetic component mm-hmm. to this horse. And the horse was not on medications. I will say that. She wasn't on NSAIDs and all that stuff, because that is also a cause.
Yeah. That can be a contributing factor, a cause. And back to like the exercise or movement or even hauling, because hauling can cause stress and anxiety, going to shows, or even if you're just hauling out to the trails or something. Remember, horses are constantly producing that acid, that stomach acid, and the digestive enzymes all the time. Mm-hmm. So we always want to make sure that they have something in them that helps curb that. And if they don't, then you are more prone to having your horse get ulcers if they're doing that, regardless of what you're riding or how you're riding. Even something as simple as walking can still cause irritation. And keep in mind too, that also goes into like going on long rides, endurance ride, trail rides, however it is, no matter how slow or fast you're going, the longer you are going and not having some time in between to let your horse eat something can up the chances and risk of your horse developing ulcers, because they need it.
Because what happens is, as they're moving, their stomach acid sloshes up and hits places that it wouldn't normally hit. And I'm going to digress a little bit and let you know too that we are going to have a separate video as well that is all about treatments of ulcers and preventative. So this video is purely what can cause them. So we will be going into that in another video as well.
Another particular cause can be, it's not as common, and it's not as frequent, but it can be the types or a lot of grain, mm-hmm. right? We've talked about, and you hear people talk about or see articles and things talking about grain and feed for horses. And, we want to do forage first, forage based, and then build up from there on what your horse needs. But high grains. I'm not talking about your pelleted hays or your complete feeds. It's a little bit different, not technically grain, but your high grains, your sweet feeds, your competition grains and all. When you start feeding a lot, and it's not that you can't or shouldn't, if your horse needs it, your horse needs it. You just want to be careful and be aware that can contribute to developing of ulcers, because it's a little bit harder for them to digest. So if they need a lot of it, you want to space it out of how much you give.
And there are certain grains out there that have gastric buffers in it, mm-hmm. and that does help as well. Outlast is a product that has a gastric buffer in it. So you can look for that as well. And if you're just looking for something too to put supplements in, don't forget about pelleted feeds, as in like pelleted grass pellets or mm-hmm. alfalfa, those types of things
Senior
too.
feed is good too.
Yeah.
Particularly if you have a horse that you need to put just a little bit of weight on, but they don't need grain, they don't need any of the extra boost that you might get from grain if they're not working super hard or doing performance or something. Senior, even though it's called senior grain, it's a complete feed, and for all horses, even foals can have it, and it's fine for them. And you can just do as little or as much as you need for your horse, and it can help also make supplements more palatable, especially if you have more of a picky eater, assuming they'll like the senior, because if you have a picky eater, or like me, you have a horse that likes something for about 2 months and then decides she hates it forever. It's great.
Yep.
But things like that, horses that are more buddy attached, or so buddy sour, buddy attached, and in regards to that, that can also contribute, because if they get worked up when their buddy leaves or they leave their friend, however, that's stress. That's going to amp up and potentially cause or exacerbate any ulcers that are maybe present.
Extended hospitalization stays as well can cause that, because a lot of times they have to fast them through it. They are on...
It's such a catch-22 when
right.
the horse is sick, you know?
Yeah.
Like colic or different things.
You have to fast.
Like, you have scope for them or something. They got to fast, but then fasting makes it worse. And it's like...
Yeah. Yeah. Also, stall rest can cause ulcers because of the stress, the change in their routine.
Especially if your horse isn't used to a stall.
Yep. Infrequent feedings, feeding once a day, feeding irregularly, not at the same time. You remember horses produce acid all day, no matter what. They're not like us. We produce acid on demand. They do not. They produce it all day because they're supposed to be constantly eating all day. And so, how you feed them does affect them. Changes in environment. If there's a stressor at the barn or something happens, that can cause their stomach acid to increase as well, too.
And hay types can potentially, the majority of your hay types are generally okay, but you have like Teff hay, there is some evidence to show that it's not buffering enough for a lot of horses, so it can cause some issues in that. So just something to look into, be aware of. But again, it goes into that nutrition and what is available to help curb that digestive enzymes in your horse's stomach acid.
Yep. Yeah. So they tell us before we exercise, always make sure that there's something in your horse's stomach. Do not have them exercise on an empty stomach. And I want to try to talk a little bit about NSAIDs. There are some NSAIDs that cause ulcers more than others. Bute and Banamine definitely can cause ulcers, which is kind of funny because, especially with Banamine, because we give Banamine when a horse is colicky because it does help relieve GI pain, but it is known to cause ulcers. Equiox, on the other hand, does cause ulcers, but not as bad. And, that's why...
These are more long-term use effects, right? So if your horse has to be on those things for whatever reason, Yeah,
and always consult your vet.
Yeah. But just to be aware of that, the NSAIDs and pain management tools can also, because you think about the pain management and the pills and all, they're a little bit harsher, so they're going to be doing some.
Yeah. Well, and also take a look at your hay. There are some grain-based hays and, oat hay being one of them, right? Oat hay, it doesn't help the horse's stomach in the same way alfalfa does. And alfalfa, I know we said we're going to talk about this later, alfalfa has a higher amount of calcium. Oat hay, on the other hand, is more acidic. So if you feed just purely oat hay, you could be creating a horse that is ulcer-ridden. That is an issue.
Yeah. And this goes back to the horses that have tendencies to be a little bit more sensitive to different things too, because even something as simple as just a different cutting of hay can potentially trigger something for our sensitive little babies.
And remember, with ulcers, there are hindgut ulcers, and then there are foregut ulcers as well.
And then there's different grades and different things about them, and different kinds, which will be in the other video. Yeah, more specific anyways.
Yeah. So if you have anything to add on, what causes of ulcers that you know of that we didn't mention, please feel free to drop it in the comments below.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.